have yet to come to terms with what I saw when I was a little kid. It's been about 25 years since this happened, and I still don't know what it was. I grew up in a small town in South Georgia before moving to North Carolina. I was about 6 or 7 at the time. My mother is a firm believer in naps or just resting during the day, and had told me to go lay down. Mom had done laundry and my bed wasn't ready, so she directed me to go to our living room and get on the hide-a-bed she made for my grandmother who was visiting. Our living room was also the dining room. At the top of the room there was a huge table with a swinging wood door that led to the kitchen. At the bottom of the room was a sitting area with the aforementioned couch bed, a couple of chairs, coffee table and my piano. There was a set of beautiful French doors that led to the hallway. I always loved the light that came through the little panes of glass. I go into the room and lay down on my left side so I'm facing the glass doors. It's late afternoon, lights coming into the windows and I can still see perfectly. I glance up at the doors and see a figure at the dining table. It's about 3 feet tall, totally black, human looking. I can see a head, torso, hands, legs, but no defining features. I quickly flip over and look directly at the table. There's nothing. I realize that I'm just seeing light tricks, so I slowly turn back on my left. To my horror, I see the figure again, but this time it's moved towards me. It's only a couple of feet from where I'm laying. My heart leaps into my throat and I turn again to see nothing. I stare at the dining room side for several minutes trying to decide what to do. I finally get the courage to look in the glass again, and this time the figure is next to the bed, reaching a hand out towards me. I shoot straight up out of the bed and run out. I refuse to go back in that room. I actually quit playing piano, I was so afraid of the room. I was young at the time, but I vividly remember what I saw. I wasn't asleep or even sleepy, so I know I didn't make it up or dream it. There was plenty of light, so it wasn't my eyes making things out of the dark. I'm not sure that I'll ever know what I saw, but I'm glad to be away from it. As a 31-year-old woman, it still is scary. This story isn't so much terrifying as it is odd or creepy. I'll explain my experiences, my sister's, and my brother's. The timelines do cross occasionally, so I'll do my best to explain when there's a parallel. The house I grew up in was built sometime in the 50s, maybe even prior to that. My mom grew up in the same house, so someone from my family has lived there for at least the last 46 years. I say this to let you know that, to my knowledge, no one has ever died in the house. One of my earliest memories happened when I couldn't have been more than 5. I was in my bedroom playing with Matchbox cars and watching Power Rangers at a set of rabbit ears. My mom called for me to come down for lunch, and as I got up to go run down the stairs, at least 2 very audible voices said, "No, don't go yet," simultaneously. Think of the bad guy in Ghost Rider when he says his name is Legion. From what I remember, I wasn't scared. I tried to argue with the voices that if I don't go downstairs soon, my mom would be mad. I was again told not to leave. Finally, as I started to leave the room, and all of my Matchbox cars started to spin like tops. I remember running down the stairs terrified, but that's where my memory ends. Sorry, it's been almost 21 years. My next experience occurred when I was in the 5th grade. Some years had passed since the Matchbox incident, and I was now the big brother of my sister Alex and my brother Zach. Alex is 3 years younger than me, and Zach 3 years younger than that. I was sleeping in my room when a large bump came from my sister's room and woke me up. I remember laying there staring at the ceiling and being really annoyed when I got the feeling I was being watched. I rolled to my side and saw what I thought was my sister peeking around the door at me. I yelled at her to go away, and the face disappeared behind the door momentarily before I came back. Again I yelled, "Alex, go away." This time, the face didn't come back. I stayed there for a few more minutes, but couldn't fall back asleep. I got up and walked down to the kitchen, only to see my sister halfway through a bowl of cereal. Years passed, and nothing really crazy happened to me again. I grew up, joined the Marines, and just attributed both experiences to dreams and or my imagination. My sister Alex began having strange experiences around the same time that I saw her, peeking around the door at me. She said she'd wake up in the middle of the night to see our younger brother Zach standing in front of the foot of her bed, just staring at her. Every night Zach would get closer and closer to where her head was, and every night she'd tell him to go back to bed, to which he would comply. One night Zach had gone to my aunt's to have a sleepover with our cousins. Alex was woken up by something tugging on her blanket, and when she opened her eyes she saw Zach bent over her face staring at her. She must have remembered Zach wasn't home because she started screaming. Zach turned around, and ran out of the room. She told me all about it the next day, but I dismissed her, saying it was only a dream. The final occurrence happened to my brother Zach. I'd been off in the Marines for a few years at this point, so I wasn't there during his experience, but it sounds much worse than either my or my sister's run-in with whatever was in that house. It was around 2010, and my mom's childhood friend Jenny had a pretty severe stroke, making it impossible to care for her 3-year-old Gabe. My mom agreed to take care of Gabe for a few weeks until arrangements could be made. A few weeks quickly became 6 months. Gabe brought with him his imaginary friend George. The whole time, weird stuff was happening around the house. Things would go missing and turn up in strange places, but no one really panicked. That is, until Zach actually saw George. One night Zach had announced loudly that he was going upstairs to play video games, and started running up the dark staircase. Zach saw a little boy at the top and just figured it was our younger brother Isaiah waiting for him. But then Isaiah came running up the stairs behind him. Zach said he stopped cold in the center of the stairs, looked at the little boy and then back at Isaiah before turning, grabbing Isaiah and jumping to the bottom of the stairs. He refused to sleep upstairs for a long time after that. A few weeks later he was outside playing basketball when one of his shots hit the rim and bounced off at a crazy angle towards the doghouse. He hustled over to pick up the ball, only to see the little boy from the top of the stairs standing there next to the doghouse watching him. Zach said he ran inside so fast he doesn't even think he touched the ground. It was at this point that my mom finally told Gabe that George had to go. She ended up praying over the property, and it's been all quiet on the Western Front ever since. In 2013, I moved into an apartment in Alma, Arkansas. I'm not sure if this had anything to do with it, but the apartment complex was right next to a very old graveyard. Little history on this apartment complex. I had lived there 3 times before, in 2003, 2006, and 2009. All 3 times I got the same 1-bedroom apartment, number 208. It was always the only bedroom available. Each time I would have strange things happen there. The first time, cabinets would open, things would be in different places, and sometimes when I'd take a shower and close my eyes, I'd see the bathroom and shower covered in blood, and blood coming out of the shower. I'd open my eyes and it'd be normal. The first time I lived there, that stuff intrigued me. I only moved out to move in with my girlfriend. Alma has very few options for apartments, and in 2006 when my girlfriend and I split up, I had to go back to the same apartment complex. And lo and behold, the exact same day I split with my girlfriend, the people living in 208 moved suddenly, and for the second time, I got the same apartment as the first time. It seemed a little weird, but I just wrote it off as coincidence. This time around, things were worse. I'd hear movement in my walk-in closet and living room at night. The shower visions were more intense, and also this was the year that the Laughing Children incident happened to me. And also, I was living here when the sleep paralysis began, a few months after the Laughing Children. My first sleep paralysis episode was terrifying. I was laying asleep next to my new girlfriend, and at about 1 AM I heard the DVD rack in the living room fall, and a lot of DVDs came crashing to the floor. I was still half asleep when I looked towards my bedroom door, which I kept shut, and on this night, I had accidentally left my bathroom light on, and I could see the light under my door, but as I turned my head to the direction of the noise and was about to holler out who's there, I heard running footsteps like a kid. Then I saw the shadow of feet at the base of my bedroom door in the bathroom light. Then I saw the feet shadow go from being on the other side of my door to being on my side of the door. No filler shadow, just the feet. And in the blink of an eye, they moved from the door to my chest and disappeared. This all happened so fast I hadn't been able to move or speak, but after seeing the shadow feet in my chest, I went to shake my girlfriend awake, but I couldn't move my arms. So I went to say her name but couldn't speak. In a panic, I tried to sit up but couldn't move at all. My eyes began to get heavy, and at a second I was dreaming of a shadow holding me down, covering my mouth. I fought and widened my eyes, and it was still there. I'm finally able to move and make a noise, but it's just a raspy, pitiful help that's barely a whisper. And I'm able to slightly move my finger and touch my girlfriend. It's enough, and she opens her eyes and asks me what's wrong. I let out my pitiful help again as I widen my eyes in fear at my chest. My girlfriend starts shaking me, and when I don't respond, she slaps me. In an instant, the shadow was gone, and I'm awake and able to move. My girlfriend says she never heard the DVDs crashing and didn't see the shadow. The DVDs were all still in the rack when I go to check the living room. My girlfriend witnessed him pull me out of 3 more sleep paralysis episodes over the next few months, before leaving me because it all freaked her out so bad. And then I moved out. Fast forward to 2009. I had married in 2007 and had a son that same year, and a daughter in 2009. But my wife and I split and I needed a place to stay, and once again I go back to the same apartment complex. I couldn't afford anything better. Once again, for the 3rd time, the only apartment is 208. But I don't want to be homeless, so I asked the landlord if I move into 208, get it be temporary, and if another apartment opens up, can he let me take it? He says yes and I move in. But after 2 weeks of bloody visions, noises, and 2 more sleep paralysis episodes, I move out and stay with family. My wife and I got back together, but in 2013 we split for good, and I get split custody and need a local place to live. And because this time I need a 2-bedroom apartment, and knowing there's no chance of getting 208 because it's 1 bedroom, I go back to the complex and end up getting 210, which is right next to 208. The even number apartments are on the 2nd floor and odd on the bottom. 210 was the only available 2-bedroom apartment, so I take it and tell myself at least it's on 208. So nothing happens here at first, and my kids and I really make it our home. And then it begins. One night I'm in my room and it's 2:30 in the morning. I hear my kids banging toys around and giggling in their room, and I hear their TV come on and it wakes me up. Irritated, I call out, "You guys are supposed to be asleep, don't make me ground you." The banging and giggling stop, but I still hear the TV going. And I get up and walk to their shut door, still half asleep, and say, "Okay kiddos, I told you to go back to..." As I begin opening their door, it occurs to me that my kids are at their mom's. I had taken them back to her the evening before. A chill runs down my body as I slowly push the door open, to see toys strewn all over and a cartoon playing on TV. I turn the light on, unplug the TV, then bolt to the living room, shutting their door behind me. I turn all the lights on in the apartment and sit up on edge all night. Nothing else like this happens, but the next week while my kids were there, I'd catch my 3-year-old daughter talking to somebody when my 6-year-old son wasn't around. So I asked her who she was talking to, and she replied, "My friend, old mom. Her kids got burned up, so she's nice to me because I look like her little girl." My daughter said this word for word, and usually she couldn't talk that plain. I immediately call her mom and ask what she's been watching over there, but her mom says just her cartoons. I once again got a chill down my entire body. My son never saw what Alexa saw. Over the next few months, my little girl continues to talk about old mom, sometimes even pointing behind me, telling me old mom is there watching me, to make sure I'm a good dad. Very creepy. Over the past few years, my little girl has gotten into spooky stuff and is fascinated with scary shows and movies, but at this time she was only 3 and had never seen scary stuff, so I was really getting concerned and I had a hard time sleeping. And then one night I was reading a kid's book called The Monster in My Closet to my kids as they lay in bed. I was sitting in a chair next to their bed. At the end of the book is a page that says for the kid reading it to draw the monster in their closet, and this gave me an idea. I told my daughter to draw old mom for me. She sits up, I give her a pencil and the book, and she says, "Can you move, Daddy? She's behind you and I can't see her." I scoot away a little and my little girl looks in the direction where I sat before, then looks down, draws a little, looks up again, then draws some more and continues to do this until she finishes. She hands me the picture, I look at it and I begin to tremble and my heart races. That weekend we moved to an apartment in the next town over. Some might say it was her imagination and she just made up the drawing, but she was 3 and I believe if she made it up she wouldn't have taken her eyes off the paper as she drew. But she kept looking up as she drew, and that tells me that she was looking at old mom the whole time while drawing her. A little background first. The house where this took place was designed by my grandmother and built by my grandfather. Nobody died in the house, but for some reason it has attracted some entities. Some good and at least one of questionable character. I have some other stories to share about this same house, but this one is the most interesting. The house is rather large and designed like a boarding house, as they were a large Catholic family. When visiting, my sister and I shared a room at the very far end of the hall. Most of the rooms were being used as storage of things left behind by aunts and uncles over the years as they moved out. The room was the same one that we stayed in each time we visited. One year, we came to visit for the summer and arrived to find a strange painting on the wall, right across from our beds in the room. It depicted a dark, gloomy forest with a greenish glow to it. Not like a ghostly glow, but like the glow of sunlight through thick leaves of a dense dark-aged forest, where the sunlight just barely manages to make it through, leaving it in constant twilight even at high noon. The overall feeling of the painting was dark and depressing, not really scary, like the artist was trying to depict the sense of being lost in the woods with no way out. We commented on the painting since it was new and went to bed. I couldn't sleep and just lay there in the dark, staring straight ahead at the painting for a while. One of the larger trees in the foreground had a pattern to its bark that started to look like a face. I kept staring at it some more, as I was used to finding faces and images in random patterns. This was perfectly normal back then, since smartphones weren't invented yet. Anyways, the face morphed into an impish figure and kind of looked like Hoggle from Labyrinth, a movie of which I had not yet seen. This creature was leaning up against the tree, and once I saw him, I couldn't unsee him. Normally I could just shift to find other things, but he just kept standing there staring at me. Then he waved. Before I had a chance to react, I heard my sister whisper, "Do you see what I see?" "You see it too?" I whispered back. We both reached for the light and he was gone. We slept with the light on. The next night we tried again. In bed, lights out, and he wasn't there at first, but then slowly materialized. He blinked from tree to tree like Bugs Bunny in the chase montage. I threw on the lights and I took the painting down and stashed it in one of the bedrooms piled of boxes. The next day, we're out of the house all day spending time with cousins. Maybe went to a museum or saw a movie. That night we go into our room, and the painting was back on the wall. What's more, even in the daylight, we could see the imp leaning there against the tree with a smug grin in his face. We took the painting down again. This went on a few times until one day we were rummaging in the closet in the room, and in the far back corner of the closet under a bottom shelf, we found a Ouija board. Creeped out even more, this too was placed in the storage room with the painting. Now I don't know if it was connected, but after that, the painting stopped reappearing on the wall in our room.